Okay, welcome to another video. So not too long ago we checked out a new Arch-based distribution called Peux OS or POS, which I very much enjoyed, and we checked out their main sort of desktop environment editions that they have on offer. All very nicely themed and all come with BTRFS support out of the box with automatic snapshotting. Well, since then I've just gone onto their website and it appears they've got a whole suite of tiling window managers now available for us to take a look at. And looking at the screenshots here, they're all looking very nice. So I think what we'll do today is we'll have a quick run through of the i3 version and see how we go. So Peux OS i3 Window Manager is actually using i3 gaps, which is a fork of the original i3 Window Manager with gapping between the tiled windows. So let's jump into the live environment and get this installed. Right, so we've just booted into the live environment and already it's looking very nice, but we'll wait until we're fully installed to start checking things out. So the ISO size for this one is around about 2.6 GB. Now, when you first start up, it's going to open up the Welcome to Peux OS welcome screen, which does give you directions on how to launch the installer, which is with Windows, Control and C. So your left super, Control and C. So let's give that a go now. So here we are in the Calamares installer, and I will of course be installing this natively. So for those of you who like to skip the installation parts of these videos, there'll be a timestamp down below, which will take you straight to the installed desktop. So first up, I need to change my default language to British English and go to the next step. Right, so we can now do some package selection for our Office suite. So what I'll probably do is just go for the fresh version of LibreOffice like so, and then go to the next step. Right, we can now choose our file manager. I do believe we have a file manager installed by default, so I'm not going to select an additional one apart from maybe Ranger, which is a nice terminal-based file manager. But other than that, I'm going to leave that blank and go to the next step. Okay, so Europe London is looking all good, and next. English UK is of course the keyboard layout, and we can just test the keyboard to make sure it's all working in the box below before we go to the next step. Right, so we're going to do the erase disk, and we're going to do erase disk with Hibernate, as that's what I always like to use on my own machine, so I always want to test these things out. But as we can see, that's going to give us 3 partitions, one for our swap, a nice large swap for the suspended disk with full hibernation. We then have a partition for our EFI, and then we have our root partition using BTRFS as its default file system, and it does have auto snapshotting enabled out of the box. So next. Right, it's now time for our user account. So we're just going to call this oneAux, I guess. Type in our password. And as per usual, I am going to log in. In fact, no, we'll go straight to the login screen so we can quickly see how that's all been themed before we jump straight into the desktop. So all I am going to do is use the same password for the administrator account and next. Okay, so it appears everything's ready to go, so I'm going to press install and pause the video here and then come back once it's finished. Right, so the installation has completed. It took a good few minutes on my machine, but now we can reboot and check out our fresh installed Peux OS with i3 Window Manager. Right, so I'm glad that we chose to go straight to the login screen because that is looking very nicely themed. So we've got our user account to the left here, and of course we can then go into there to change it to a different window manager or desktop environment if we had one installed. And then we've got some buttons down here for shutdown, etc. And then just underneath my face, it then shows you the current date and time. So let's quickly log in and start checking things out. And here we are. And as you can see, the Peux OS welcome screen is now a bit more in depth as a quick guide to get you used to the sort of keyboard driven way of using i3. So this is the second half of the short guide that you saw in the live environment. You will find the information that will be enough to help you get started. Note, in key bindings, mod is the Windows key or your left super key. So do we have anywhere else to go? It appears that we've got some buttons here on the right, so let's click that. So the application launcher that you see is Rofi. The launcher design varies from BSPWM to Xmonad. You can change the design from here, so in your config or Rofi folder, and the key binding to launch it is mod and D, so let's give that a go. There we go, so that's going to open up your kind of application launcher in the bottom left hand side of your screen, but we'll go more in depth in that in just a moment. Now next up we have another step to go through, so here is for the panel. So I was quite intrigued to see what paneling they're going to be using, but as we can see there, it's going to be using Tint 2 as the default panel. You can change the design from here, so again in your config/Tint 2 folder. Applications that are visible in the panel taskbar can be closed using the right click or 2-finger tap on the laptop's touchpad. Okay. Next up, power menu. So the power menu is designed using Rofi again, so this will appear on the right side of your screen, and can be launched using either the key bindings or from the panel icon. So the key bindings are Mod, Shift and P. Let's give that one a go. There we go. So my face is just covering it up. So let's just move me out of the way for the moment and then we can see that again. So we're going to launch it again with the keyboard binding with left super, Shift and P. And then as you can see, it's going to open up a little power menu on the right hand side of your screen where you can log out, shut down, etc. Now they do say there's also a panel icon. So let's have a look down at our panel. So I'm going to imagine this is the one right here. And there we go. So again, it's going to pop out on your right side of your screen. Very nice. Okay, and I'm back. And now let's see some of the other steps that are included here. Default applications. The default terminal used is Alacrity. You can change it if you wish to. Key binding is Mod and Enter. So let's go onto a different workspace for now using left super and 2. And let's press left super again and Enter to then open up our terminal. And by default, it's going to show you a nice bit of information there. But again, we'll get into that sort of stuff in just a moment. So then what else have we got? The default email client is Blue Mail. So much like all of the other versions of PayX OS that I've seen so far. And the default manager is Polo. It's in beta, but all the possible rich features are present in it. You can easily remove it and change it with something else of your choice. Key binding for that one is left Mod, Control and H. Let's have a look at that one. So Mod, Control and H. So I've never actually seen this file manager myself. Okay, interesting. We'll look at that in a bit more detail at the moment, but by default it's opening in sort of a split view there, which is very handy. So let's go back into the welcome screen or the quick guide and see what else we've got. So that's everything for the default applications. We then have notifications. So Dunst will handle the notifications. The color of any notification will vary depending upon the urgency levels shown below. So for critical is red, for normal is black, and for low is gray. Right click on a notification pop up and that will close the notification. Okay. And then last but not least, we have additional key bindings. So key bindings are very important in tiling window managers. You can obviously change them. I've kept the key bindings as close to the defaults as possible. The best way to learn is to get yourself familiarized with them by yourself. i3 configuration can be, of course, be found in your home folder .config/i3/config. Moreover, to stop this app from popping up on every session, comment out the welcome app in the config file, which we'll do in just a moment. Right, so we're just going to uncomment the welcome app and then we'll do a reboot and see how much RAM we are using on a fresh boot, and then we'll start playing around with things. But so far, I'm quite liking how this is all looking and working. So to uncomment it, we're just going to put a little hash symbol there and then we can save that and we're good to go. So I'm just going to see if we have HTOP installed out of the box. If not, we'll quickly install it and then we'll go ahead and actually have a look at how much RAM we are using. Perfect, so HTOP is installed out of the box. Let's reboot and then start playing around with things. Okay, so we've just started back up and run HTOP to see how much RAM we are using on a fresh boot before we make any changes to our system. As we can see there, we're using under 500 at around about 481. Of course, you can get i3 a lot lower yourself, but this does come installed with a whole lot of applications, which we'll get into in just a moment. So we're in a completely clean workspace or desktop at the moment, and as you can see, the panel at the bottom does have some nice transparency effects. And we have the familiar widget that we've seen on all the other versions of PayX OS, letting you know the date and time. Now we've got a notification here and it's got the black color, so it's not super critical or too important. And we can just do a right click on that or a 2-finger touch with our touchpad to then dismiss that notification. So in our terminal here, we can see we're using the kernel version 5.12.1. The default shell is fish, and that is the same for all of their other versions that they do have on offer. i3 is of course our window manager. Theming for GTK2 is Adwater. GTK3 is Arc Blackfest or Blackest, sorry. I've not actually seen that shade of Arc theme before, so we'll see how that all looks. And then for the icons, we have a Zafiro icons purple. So I think what we'll do is just very quickly go over how it's all set up on the desktop with the Tint 2 panel. And then we'll go through the applications and see what we can do. So let's close this off. So to close an application, it's more than likely going to be your left super key, shift and then Q. And then you can close all of your applications like so. Right, so let's start with our application launcher at the left here. So we have a nice little search bar at the top, so we can search for any old application like Firefox, hit enter, and then we can of course launch that application. Now it's going to give you a sort of task list down here, and of course we can just right click on that again to then close that task. Then we have some quick launches for our terminal. We have another launcher for our file manager perhaps. Nope. Yep, so it's also restored our previous session. That was quite interesting. We didn't have one for Firefox, and we have one for the multi-protocol sort of software store. I forget what it's called, but here you can manage things like app images, Flatpaks, etc. I think it's called like B something. Hold on, let's double check what that's called before we get things too wrong. Bar, so BAUH, and then you can manage all of your kind of applications there. So native applications, snaps, Flatpaks, app images, etc. And you have pretty much everything covered. So let's close these applications off and then see what else we've got on our actual panel right now. We then have the date and time, and can we click that? Does anything happen? It does, so it'll pop up your little calendar there, and let's try it now with a right click and see if anything happens this time. Same old thing. We then have a little image icon, so clicking that. Ah, that's very cool. So that's going to go through different wallpapers and cycle through things, and it is a very nice wallpaper selection that I have noticed from the other versions. Very attractive looking desktop. I do like these wallpapers that they have included. Let's leave it on that one for now. Okay, we then have kind of like a little system tray here. So we have our AC, so we're not on a laptop at the moment. So if we were, we could then sort of go into the power settings for that. And clicking on it doesn't appear to do too much on this desktop. We then have our sort of Ethernet connections, and of course clicking on that you can go into more options there. And then we have our volume slider. So with a right click on the volume icon, it will then expose a few more options to open a mixer, preferences, about, or quit. And then last but not least, we have the power button, which you've seen already, but we'll go into it just to check out the lock screen. So it's appeared now on the right hand side of the screen, and we're going to press this lock to get straight into our lock screen. So it appeared to have needed a double click there. So it appears the lock screen is just quite a blinding white image. So what we're going to do is just log back in and start checking some other things out. Now, while we've got a terminal window open, we're going to open up a couple of more and then move in between them and see how it signifies focused and unfocused windows. So left super and enter. We're going to do it a couple of times. Okay, cool. Quite like the way it's doing that. So as you can see, there's not really any borders that I can see, but we do have the changing of the background to a transparent background when the actual application window is unfocused. And then the one you're focused on has got a solid background. So as you can see, it's now gone transparent and then back to transparent onto a solid window. So let's close these off, and now let's start taking a look at some of the applications that are installed out of the box. So using the keyboard shortcut left super and D, or mod and D, we can launch the application launcher and see what we've got installed out of the box. So first up, we have the advanced network configuration, the BTRFS tray, I'm probably saying that wrong, so my apologies, the VNC server browser, Bluetooth manager, CMake, your terminal emulator, which is Alacrity, Arc, the ZeroConf browser, Butter Manager, which is another kind of tool to help you manage your BTRFS snapshots and all of that good stuff. However, I do believe Timeshift is the one that they sort of recommend using, and Butter Manager is kind of just there as a backup. And as what I already have actually done an update, that should have automatically taken a snapshot for us in Timeshift, but we'll check that out once we've opened up Timeshift. We then have Code OS, and then we have the application that I keep mispronouncing, which is Bayor, which is a multi-protocol chat application, again for snaps, Flatpaks, etc. We then have the SSH server browser, Bluemail, which is sort of a multi-platform desktop email client, so you can also get that on your Android devices. I've used it quite a lot on Android, it's not too bad. Then we have ClamTK, which is an antivirus tool, and Compton, which is your screen compositor. And then we have Conky there for desktop widgets. We have Electron, we have the FireJail wizard, which we'll go into in just a moment. So it's a cool little application to sort of jail and sort of isolate some of your applications. We didn't have Fish, we have hardware locality, HTOP, Flameshot, and now let's quickly open up the Fire tools and show you how that all works. So it's it probably needs a rule for floating or something, so it doesn't open up in a sort of full tiled window like this. But as you can see, it's already got a few applications ready for it to go. So we can just double click that, and any of the applications that you launch from there will be sandboxed in their own little jail and shouldn't really affect the rest of your system. So let's close that off and keep moving. Now let's go back into our application launcher. So that was the Fire tools. We then have Electron 11, and we have a package called Customize Look and Feel. So I'm going to imagine that's either LX Appearance. I do believe that is the one we are using. And we can see there in the widgets, theming wise, we have Arc Blackest, Krypton and Rayleigh. And for the icon themes, we have Adwater, Flattery Dark, UOS dark, and then Zafiro icons purple, which we saw were the defaults that we're currently using. Now going back into the application launcher, let's see what else we do have. We then have Discord installed out of the box, and of course if you want to join the Tireless Tech Discord server, there'll be a link down below that will take you straight to it. Firefox is our default web browser. I actually do really quite like these icons actually. I've not really used these before too much. We then have our firewall configuration, GAMI, indicator lock keys. Do we have another page? We do indeed. So on the first page here we can see we have Joplin, which is a very cool note-taking application which works across all of your devices and is one that I use myself, and it has full markdown support. And if you use something like Nextcloud, you can actually configure it with Nextcloud, which is what I've done. But there are a few other options, I do believe. So if we go into synchronization, we have Dropbox support, Nextcloud, WebDAV, OneDrive, etc. Very cool note-taking application that I can definitely recommend. And then next up, we have my Office suite of applications, which were LibreOffice, but they'll only be present if you chose to install them in the installer for Calamares, or if you chose to choose a different Office suite of applications. We then have MPV Media Player, and then we have one of the new applications which I haven't used before, but I have seen it on their website, which is called PayX Fetcher. So I do believe it's just quite a simple, easy to use tool to then grab a few more additional things for your desktop or window manager. So as you can see here, we can grab some backgrounds, we can grab some different window managers like BSPWM, some different conky widgets, etc. And if we go into the details, so this is the configuration from PayX OS LXQT. You'll have the correct path in the auto start. So that's just going to tell you the details it's going to do, and then Fetch will grab that for you. And if we go onto guide, it's just going to sort of tell you how to use it. Then we have Onion Share, the PayX OS Information Center, Panel Manager, and Pick'em. So let's quickly see what the PayX OS Information Center looks like. So that is just a quick start guide that we saw in the beginning. So it's always going to be there if you want to go back to it and refresh how to do things with a very quick guide. We then have Polo, our file manager, which we'll check out a bit more in just a moment. Qt5 settings, Ranger, which again I chose to install in the actual installation screen of Calamares. Spotify, Tint2, which is our panel. The Tor browser for anonymous surfing. Stacer, which is like a system cleanup tool, not too dissimilar from BleachBit. Software token, the V4L2 test and capture utilities. Pulse audio volume control. And then we have Timeshift, which is going to be your main tool for sort of managing your BTRFS snapshots. Let's open it up and make sure it has worked with our automatic snapshot before we done the update. And there we go. So as you can see there, it does say Timeshift Auto Snap, and it will do that every time you update or upgrade your system in case there's any sort of breakages or changes you need to revert and go back to and investigate what's gone wrong. So very handy to have set up out of the box. We then have the USB image writer, and I don't know if there's any more. Let's see if there's another page. There is indeed. So then the last two we have there is the USB stick formatter and the volume icon. So we're now going to open up the Batu application store to install some Flatpak versions of Kdenlive and GIMP. But of course, if you wanted some different formats like a snap or an app image, we could do that as well. So we do know that it's got a quick launch on our panel right about there. So it has given us a little notification that we can just dismiss with a right click on our mouse. So it's now looking for some suggestions. So here it has some kind of featured suggested applications, and as you can see, it's populated with snaps, app images and Flatpaks. Now at the top we have a search bar, and then we have some filters, so we can filter by type, so either web, snap, Flatpak or app image. And then of course we can filter by category. Now at the bottom right we have a few more options to like change the theme, get into the settings, and then show the featured applications. What we're going to do is just search for Kdenlive and see what it throws up. Okay, I would have liked to see the app image version because Kdenlive do actually ship an official app image for Kdenlive, but it has found the snap and the Flatpak version, so we're going to go ahead and grab the Flatpak version. So that's now installing Kdenlive, and then once that's finished we'll grab GIMP and then we'll make sure they're all launching as they should. And then we'll move on and check some other things out. Right, so our Flatpak applications for GIMP and Kdenlive have now been installed and should be appearing in our application launchers. So let's go to a fresh desktop and check that out. So we're just going to search for Kdenlive, and there it is. Let's launch that and make sure we've got no issues there. Perfect, so Kdenlive is all launched without issue, and now we're going to do the same for the GIMP Flatpak and just make sure that's all working as well. So there it is in our application launcher, and again I really do like this icon theme. And there we go, so GIMP is also launching without any problems whatsoever. The last time I checked out PayX OS, it didn't quite show any of your Flatpak applications in the actual app launchers. So it appears they have sorted that out. So I want to spend a minute or two actually checking out this default file manager that they've got called Polo, because I've never used this before and it does look like quite an interesting file manager. So in the top row we have options for things like file, edit, view, go, workspace. We then have cloud, so we have the option there to remove an account or we can add an account. So that's going to open up a little dialog here where we can add cloud services like Google Drive, OneDrive, etc. and also Dropbox. That's very cool. And then just beneath that on the second row we have some navigation, so back, forward, up or reload. We then have a quick link to get to your home folder, view, bookmarks, devices. We then have a button called terminal, so I'm going to imagine that's going to open up a terminal in the current directory and pane that you are currently in. So as we're on the right side, it's open up the terminal, so I guess clicking that again will then close the terminal. So if we go into a different folder, it should open up the terminal in whatever folder you are in when you click that button. And there you can go, we are in downloads. Okay, that's very cool. Let's go back to home now, pressing the home button, and we are back into our home view. And then we also have the full directory here, so we can go to paths like so. And I believe this blue line is sort of indicating which current side you are on. So if we go back onto that one, we can see that the blue line is now on that side. We then have a nice bit of option, sort of information down at the bottom as well. So it even shows you how many hidden files there are currently. So we currently have 12 hidden files. Let's press Ctrl and H to then show the hidden files. And we can see that it now says 0 for hidden. That's a very cool little feature as well. And it even shows you the current file system of the folder that you are in. And if you go and click over that, it gives you a bit more information like size, used and free, which is very handy. Now before we begin to wrap things up, I do want to test out hibernation. So I've opened up a few applications on this workspace. We have GIMP and the file manager of Polo open, and then on another workspace we have Kdenlive open. Now I'm not sure if the power button down at the bottom has the hibernate option there, so we'll check that out now. So we're going to click the power button on our panel, and I'm going to assume that this one is sleep and this one here is hibernate. So let's give that a go. So we're going to press enter. It's going to say, are you sure? Let's type yes. And we just booted it up and we're at the grub screen right now. And here you can see we can also jump into the other snapshots. So we're going to load our Peux OS i3. And as long as all of those applications are there right where we left them, that means hibernation has worked flawlessly on Peux OS. Okay, so we've just started back up. We're on the third workspace. Let's go to workspace 1. And there are our two applications of GIMP and our file manager. And there as well as Kdenlive. So Peux OS has worked absolutely fine without issues on my machine. That's been one of my first looks at the tiling window managers that Peux OS offers, starting with i3, and actually I really do like it. I think it's configured in a very nice way. It looks lovely, and I'm very much a fan of having BTRFS with auto snapshot enabled out of the box. Now if you've never used a tiling window manager before and you're a little bit put off by all the key bindings, once you get used to things it really isn't as hard as it looks, and it's definitely worth trying out if you never have done before. And as well as the quick start guide to sort of guide you through some of the common ones, they also list the key bindings or some of the main ones for all of their window managers on their website there. Thank you for watching. If you've enjoyed this video, please subscribe, and if you've really enjoyed it, you can consider supporting me on Patreon. Join the Discord, there's a link down below. I'll see you on the next one. Bye bye.